You know, Elden Ring won Game of the Year 2 years ago. This seems fun, I think I'm gonna give it a try, but there's no way it could be that good.
Oh my god. I get it.
Up until like 3 weeks ago, I have not touched a From Software game. I've obviously known about Dark Souls and the effect it's had on gaming, but I've never actually given one of their games a try, until one of my friends played through Dark Souls 3 and made the proposition of having our whole friend group buy Elden Ring, get the seamless co-op mod, and play through it together. Now I'll be honest, I was a little hesitant at first. I was under the impression that I'd play the game for a few hours, get bored, and move on, but God, I could not have been more wrong. Me and my friends spent probably the first 15 hours of the game playing together, exploring Limgrave, fighting some optional bosses, picking out what builds we'll have, and eventually, after those 15 hours, we decided to finally fight Margit, and as you'd expect, we wiped the floor with him. But after that, we just kinda stopped playing together. Not because it was boring, but because we didn't want to stop playing if one of us weren't on. So from that point forward, we just kind of played solo, joining each other's lobbies now and again for fun, like if one of us was having too much trouble with a boss, for example. And I know what you Souls purists are saying.
Oh, the whole point of the game is to die and try and get better.
Yeah, I know, which is why we only helped each other with non-story bosses, but I'm getting a little off track here. How the hell could Elden Ring, a game from a studio whose games I've never played before, instantly become one of my favorite games of all time in about a week? Well, let me start off with the story, and yes, there will be spoilers in this video. While the story isn't completely shoved in your face, and you can probably go the entire game without even knowing what's going on, the story and world building in this game is phenomenal, especially for a first playthrough of the game. If you have no idea what you're doing, there is something new in every corner of the world for you to do. While it's not perfect and it can get a little repetitive on a second playthrough, nothing can beat the first exploration through the map, finding new NPCs and quests everywhere you go. There are bits of story everywhere, and when you really look deep into it, you find out almost every one of the main story bosses are related to each other in one way or another. The main gist of things, however, is that you're a Tarnished, which means you're banished from the lands between by Queen Marika following the war that broke out between her kids, and you just become an unstoppable force, killing almost each member of their little family. The game allows you to do this freely using magic, a big great sword, or with just two big old balls. The game also allows you to play at your own pace and mostly in whatever order you'd like. Here and there, there's moments where you have to fight one certain boss to progress, but most of the time, you can straight up just ignore some of them. The majority of the map is opened up to you from the moment you spawn into the map for the first time, so if you really wanted to, you could just go as far up as you'd like to grab some mid to late game items early on. Games that provide that kind of exploration I just love, giving you the option to just skip ahead in the beginning and come back to the early game later on. That's something I feel more open world RPGs should include. While it obviously wouldn't always work, that sense of exploration really helps make you feel like you're part of the world. The game doesn't feel limiting and allows you to make your own custom character do what they please. That's what really helps games that are based around your own created character, having actual freedom. It feels weird playing through a game where you create a character and then proceed to have the experience be extremely linear. Elden Ring's abundance of weapon types, armor, NPCs, explorable areas, bosses, and endings has it feel like you're making your own story. While 4 out of the 6 endings the game offers are mostly the same with slight color differences, the story behind each of them are extremely different and range from being cool to... Only 2 of the endings are unique, being the Ronnie questline ending and the Frenzied Flame ending, basically being the good and the kill everything ending. The ending I got on my first playthrough was Ronnie's ending, because when looking up questlines I realized I had already beaten most of it, so I decided why not. Not knowing that you marry the blue ghost lady. I just died of your arms tonight. Yeah, this is the simp ending. You marry Ronnie and become Elden Lord, starting the Age of Stars, which I thought had a cool ass cutscene. That was until my New Game Plus run, where my character got touched on by the 3 fingers and I got this cool ass cutscene of my character just fucking burning everything. This is the type of choice I want in these open world RPGs. I want to be given the ability to choose between different, widely varying endings. Shit, I feel like even a simple good and bad ending would be fine enough, let alone 6. The only issue I had with the end of the game is that after the end cutscene, if you choose to continue the world instead of going to New Game Plus, nothing really changes. There's no new NPC dialogue, no new items to collect, the world doesn't change at all, there's nothing. The devs expect you to go to New Game Plus, and while that's fine I guess, it would be nice to see an NPC's reaction to me becoming Elden Lord. I mean shit, They've been hyping me up about it all game, and now it means fucking nothing, I guess. Thanks, guys. But that's just a small critique, of course, nothing that makes or breaks the game. And hell, everything else in this game just makes up for it, including the music and the overall atmosphere of the game. The different areas of the map that makes up the lands between are unique in their own aspects, and all add something worthwhile to the game. Limgrave, Caelid, Lernia of the Lakes, the Capital, Volcano Manor, and the plethora of different caves and dungeons, all except the mountaintops of the giants. Mr. Miyazaki, please, sir, answer me. Why is the top right of the map this big when you can only explore this much? Please let me know. You know where to find me, and yeah, thank you. But besides that, yeah, the map is extremely well put together, and every section looks completely different, with a wide variety of enemies inhabiting each little corner. And just the music, man. Fucking, oh my god. This game's soundtrack is phenomenal. The intensity you feel in every boss, no matter the difficulty, gets raised just due to the boss music kicking in. It makes the whole scenario become 10 times more cinematic, especially when you're on the 400th attempt of a boss. But let's just slow down a second, because how could I go this far into the video without even mentioning the gameplay? That, along with the difficulty, is like the main selling point of the Soulsborne games. The basic overview of the gameplay is that you roll, attack, roll again, and repeat. You know, it's kind of simple. In all seriousness though, the gameplay is great. The combat is difficult, but for the most part, feels rewarding. The vast amount of builds you can make, as I said before, creates for a lot of freedom in playstyle, and the iconic Souls rolling is perfect. Now on my first playthrough, I did a katana bleed build. I know, I used the meta build. I didn't mean to. When I loaded up the game, I picked Samurai because he looked cool, and only later found out the katana builds can get pretty OP. Especially when the Mimic tier comes into play. But give me a pass just this once, please. This game takes a lot of skill to get good at. A lot of the people who play and give up in the beginning calling this game trash are just not good at the game. I'm sorry. And this includes myself. Like 5 years ago, I tried playing Dark Souls 3 with a friend and gave up in 5 minutes because the intro boss was too hard and said it was bad game design. But I've since come to my senses, and now having given Elden Ring a try, I can agree that when you get used to the mechanics, you actually start to realize how fair the fights really are, and simply come down to learning the enemy's animations and knowing when to dodge or strike. I'd say parry, but no. Both the horse and fast travel being available is also very useful. Without either of these, the game would be so much worse, mainly due to how big the world is. It's not unplayable, I guess, without these additions, but it would be very annoying to play through, especially when having to go back and forth between locations. The only actual problems I faced when playing in, for one, From Software, please never put parkour in your games ever again. Please, thank you. There's a pretty good amount of it in this game, and it's just doesn't work, bro. I'm sorry. The only other big complaint I have is that sometimes the scaling is just terrible. I can get to a high character level, have the ability to smack down the final boss, and yet some random dude in some random part of the map will just kick my ass. There's also other moments randomly throughout the game where one moment I'll be instantly killing everything, and the next moment the enemies might as well just be Malenia. Sometimes enemies are at a nice middle point, but I feel that the majority of the time they're just on the too hard or too easy scale. But on the topic of bosses like Malenia, the main story bosses for the most part are just very interesting, in a good way. Like I said in the beginning, most of them are part of one big giant family, and in the cutscenes for these fights, the bosses will just say the most fucking fire, awesome line of all time and just proceed to not say another word. Then you kill them and move on. I mean, I may just be used to games relying heavily on cutscenes, and while having a cutscene after you defeat them would be cool, it's not necessary, and it's just a creative choice on the devs' part. But after playing the game, I looked up and watched this video on your screen now about the boss's lore, and it got me hooked even more into the game. And at that point, I already finished my playthrough, so that's how you know it's good. But Malenia, yeah. I've mentioned her twice, so I feel like I have to talk about her. Yeah, her fight wasn't as bad as people say it is. And I know, I had the Rivers of Blood, and I had the Mimic tier, so technically I cheesed it, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I can see how people had trouble with her. Her waterfowl dance and healing attacks are just not cool to deal with. I still never found out how to dodge it. I just kind of tanked through it and healed every time. But I won't lie, it did take me like 15 or 20 tries, but it wasn't close to the hardest boss for me. And for me, it'd have to be...
Oh, death. Become my blade once more.
Fuck Malekith, bro. That's all I gotta say. The fight's just fucking... He is kinda cool though, not gonna lie. It took just a few weeks for Elden Ring to become one of my favorite games of all time after not even being a fan of the Souls games, literally ever. While there are small problems with the game, I won't sit here and say,
yeah, I give this game a 9.9 because,
No, I'm just gonna be straight up and give this game a 10 out of 10 score. And the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, isn't even out yet. The game is about to become so much better with a new playable area, new bosses, weapon types, just basically becoming Elden Ring 1.5 at this point, and I cannot wait. If you guys liked the video, let me know in the comments if you all agreed with my opinions on the game or not, and if there's any Souls-like games you guys think I should play. And oh yeah, Alexander Pott is the best character in the entire game.